Welcome back to the garden. So today's video all about aftercare for hyacinths. So I'm going to go ahead and try and answer all the questions that you have in regards to how do we take care of this after Christmas. Just before we jump into it, I've actually got 3 playlists. One how-to videos, which is just like this one. I've got one of my tropical garden tours, so that's over 20 videos. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to go and check that playlist out. And I've got one of my brugmansias as well, among other stuff. So let's get into it. So while my greenhouse is still under construction, which I'll put a link down below, I'm just going to get a few things ready for this task. As you can see, a couple of pots. I need a bigger watering can for when we're done. I use a multi-purpose compost here, and to open it, all I'm using is a plant label. So the sharp end of a plant label is actually perfect for opening up your compost bags, which I never knew, something I learned at the National Trust. Perfect compost for this job will be multi-purpose or a bulb fibre. As long as it's not too wet or too cold, it will get the job done just perfect. And obviously it wouldn't be a hyacinth video without my hyacinths, so these are done. Now the reason for cutting the flowers off is so it can just concentrate on the leaves and doing its thing with photosynthesis. Now here, I didn't pick my sharpest pair of secateurs. I've actually misplaced my secateurs, so I'm using a sharp pair of like scissors. Now, you can tell they're done because every single flower is completely finished, and what you want to be doing is you want to be cutting it as low down the flower spike as you can possibly get without cutting any leaves off. And ideally, you want to be cutting within one smooth motion. Not like I did on the first one, but hey-oh, this is just a way of how not to do it, right? So cut as low down as you can possibly go, leaving all the leaves on, or as many leaves on as you possibly can. You know, we're not all perfect, so don't be afraid of cutting one off. You know, it's not going to make any difference. Just don't cut them right down to the base. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take them out of the pot, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tease the roots ever so slightly. So this is a really good tip for any pot plant that you may have. Okay, so here what you can do is you can separate them all with like a sharp knife. You can easily see the ways in here to separate the 3 bulbs. I'm going to leave them all together just for the purpose of this video, and as you can see here, just teasing the roots out. So all this is going to do is just going to encourage the roots out in its new pot, and they're going to take on them nutrients a lot better. So one of your questions may be, why are you actually repotting this? And to be fair, that's probably the biggest question I would ask too. The main reason is these are not done yet, not by a long shot. So what we need to do is actually feed the bulb. 2 ways you can do that. You can give it a bit of a liquid feed, which tends to be a little bit more labour intensive because you're going to have to feed that sort of once a week or once every fortnight throughout the rest of this sort of season until spring. The easiest and best way is just to repot them into a multi-purpose compost. Now what that will do is it will send all the goodness to the bulb, so obviously photosynthesis through the leaves back into the bulb, and then it's going to reassure that it's going to flower again next year, or should I say this year. Once these have been planted, they're actually going to spend the rest of the winter on the windowsill. They're not ready to go outside yet. It would be a complete shock to them if you were to put them outside. So keep them inside, somewhere warm, somewhere dry, until the better weather comes. Now, with these being fed for the next 6 weeks, I'm really not going to do any worrying about these. And that's why it's the best option when it comes to restoring the bulbs and putting some good stuff into them, just giving them a multi-purpose compost or a bulb fibre compost. So the next plan for these will be just to let them die off naturally. They may even throw out another flower spike. Now that is known to happen, not always, so you might be lucky enough to get another round of flowers, but for the most part we're really investing these ready for the back end of what's now this year. So this hyacinth bulb hasn't even got going yet, but we're going to just pretend that this has done its thing, and what we want to do is get it ready for next year. Now there's a couple of different ways to do it. With mine, I'm going to plant them straight out into the garden. So when they're finished and they're dying back, and you'll know that they're dying back because they'll be yellow and brown and what we call spent within the gardening world. Mine are going to go straight into the garden and they'll come up again next spring, so they won't flower at Christmas and they're not going to come up, they're actually a springtime bulb. Whereas what we're going to do with these, we're going to force these, and that's what you get at Christmas, you get a forced bulb. So we'll end up forcing these, and they need a 6-week dormant period. So these are going to go into a box, once they're finished obviously. These are going to go into a box, somewhere cool, somewhere dry, so they're not going to rot, and they're going to sit there for 6 weeks, and you're going to aim to get them out around September time. So September you're going to try and wake them up, and then get them going for Christmas, just like these ones. Really simple. I'm just going to show you what I would do. Just get a little bit of paper. This is just to absorb any kind of moisture that you might have in there, and then simply pop your bulbs in, not touching, just in case one tends to go mouldy. They'll all go mouldy, but if they're not touching, then it should just be just that one bulb, and that is it. This will go in a cupboard, cool, dry place, and we'll aim to get these out around September time. There we have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up, because it really does help the channel out. And this is, like I say, one of many playlists on the channel, so be sure to go ahead and check out the other how-to videos. But until next time, I'll see you in the garden.